Is it fine for you to break down how much you're spending on ads, how much you spend on employees, and how much you make, like in terms of cash collected per month on average?
We are right now at around K a month revenue. Cash collected is around %. Ad spend around K a month. Our payroll is about.
My name is Max Tornow, and I build and scale 6 to 7 figure online coaching, consulting, and agency businesses. Back in 2011, I started my very first coaching business for dating advice and personal development.
And I see this so many times with people like, oh, here we got our freaking 2 Comma Club ClickFunnels award. We got 10 million. Yeah. What's your margins?
And you said you almost 10 extra testosterone level, and just like 1 or 2. Oh, how the fuck did you do that?
Here's him. I'm like, thank you, sir. See you next week.
All right. I mean, let's get started then.
Let's
just so you understand who we're talking to on this channel here. It's basically coaches and agencies who are making at least like 10K a month and want to basically scale their business, especially using a personal brand. Okay. I would estimate that probably the average viewer is making anywhere between 30 and like 80, but yeah. So generally, like, I know you, obviously, you're a legend in this space. But for people who don't know who you are, maybe you can explain yourself, like who you are, how you make your money, what your funnel looks like, etc.
Yep. So I've made my first multiple million in 2016 with dating and personal development coaching. I first done that offline. I was on 4 world tours, traveled the world over 4 times in the time span of 4 years. And then in 2018, I started selling. Well, in 2016, I started selling online with info products, made my first million there. Then made between 3 and 5 million a year. In 2018, I transitioned over into high ticket online coaching. It was one of the first high ticket offers online in the dating and personal development realm. 2019, then I had so many clients in 2019 that asked me business questions, even though I was officially a dating coach, that we decided, hey, let's just make a business program as well. And that's where the whole idea of, freedom business mentoring and the idea of that came about, where we're helping people start a coaching business. And then, of course, we started getting more and more advanced clients that were making 10, 50, 100, 500K a month. And then you help them with the scaling aspects. And that's what we're doing. That's all I do. The call I had just before that was about content creation on Instagram, YouTube. And the calls I have after that will be about this. So just nonstop.
Good stuff. I mean, like, we can also cut this out just to understand how transparent everything can be. But basically, is it fine for you to break down how much you're spending on ads, how much you spend on employees, and how much you make, like in terms of cash collected per month on average?
Sure. So we are right now at around 600K a month revenue. Cash collected is usually, the front end cash collected is around 30 to 50%. And then, of course, the payment plans stack up. We have around a 90% collection rate, which means like around 90% of the payment plans end up paying in full. Sometimes people want to pause it because, they have some personal issues or something like that. And then the money just comes in later. We have around, let me try to get the numbers right. In terms of ad spend, we have around 150K a month, something like that, or 200K, something along those lines. Our payroll is, that is excluding the commissions. Payroll is about, I think, 100 or 80, 70 or 80K or something like that. Sometimes 100 if we have copywriters working on certain projects. Yeah, that should be it.
Nice. Appreciate the transparency here. So if we break it down generally, obviously it's not specific, like it's not easy to assign where leads are coming from, etc. directly, but how would you like average it out between YouTube, Instagram, and all the like cold ads, whatever you're doing?
Yeah, ads is like right now, I would say, and by paid ads, I also involve Instagram paid shoutouts. It's like 90%.
Really?
Yeah, we have been since 2022, just been completely focused on making paid ads work, because we wanted to basically tap into cold traffic and we wanted to be able to convert anyone. And it was actually really cool once we started getting people like, hey, this person saw an ad yesterday and they just bought for 28K just because they saw an ad, saw the VSL, booked a call, or sometimes they didn't even book a call, they just opted in. We outbound called, then they have a call with the closer closes them. So that was always something that was very important for me over the last 3 years, because before that I was selling purely organic. So basically my entire career, starting in 2011-ish with like freaking posting on a forum back then, getting my first €150 clients, all the way to 2021 was all organic. It was just always, I built a brand, or I started posting somewhere and people came to me organically. And then we wanted to do ads. And of course, when you come from organic and you're like, your closers are used to having a guy or a girl on the call, like, yeah, I know Max for 5 years. I'm a huge fan. And then they got some objections and the objection gets handled. And then the closers think they know how to close. And from there, to transition into, I saw an ad. Why are you calling me? Who are you? Is this legit? I don't know. I got to think about it. Like, it completely shocks your entire closing system. If your closers are only used to warm traffic, it shocks everything, because also all of a sudden now every lead costs money. It's a very stressful situation. And I teach this to my clients as well. I have a client, is in a German market. I'm not going to say the name, but he's in a German market in a B2C offer. And he also sells purely organic, and we started running ads with him, and they couldn't convert at first. And I'm like, listen to the setter call, because nobody showed up to their closing calls after the setter calls.
Yeah.
And he's like, I listened to the setter call, except for 3-4 small problems. It was very good. And I'm like, that's exactly all it takes for someone from cold traffic. 3-4 tiny small problems for that person not freaking show up. I remember it because I had exactly the same issue where I'm like, this person from cold traffic doesn't show up. Our show up rate sucks, or our closing rate sucks. So I started listening to the calls, and I had exactly the same mindset. I'm like, the call was perfect. Only issue was my sales rep mispronounced the name of the lead, right? Instead of like Eileen, he said Eileen or something like that. And I'm like, that is enough for someone who doesn't know you, who's not a fan, to not buy from you. So it was very difficult for us to switch over to that. And now that we've cracked it, like, I haven't done much organic. I mean, you maybe have noticed it. I haven't been on any freaking podcasts over the last 3 years. I just started it again last summer because I was just freaking busy cracking the cold traffic cow, because I wanted my team, my marketing, my coaches, the entire company to be able to run, sell to, and deliver to someone that is completely cold, that has huge amounts of distrust, has been burnt before, doesn't know us. I wanted to work for that person nonetheless, because now where we're starting to do organic again, we've again just started with YouTube again, like in fall/December last year. And I want that to be a bonus, right? I want my whole team to be used to just sucking and having it really hard for cold traffic, and then get really good at that, and then have the organic stuff come in, and they're like, oh, that's a nice refreshment. That person has watched your stuff for the last 6 months. So yeah, that's why.
Very interesting. Very interesting. For me, it was the exact opposite, where I started with literally cold ads, cold DMs, all that stuff.
Good.
But then I was like, at some point I hit like a very, very strong plateau at like around 50K a month or something. I basically wasn't able to scale until I realized that people cannot watch any of my content when I sell, like when I try the cold ads, right? I didn't have a good Instagram presence as well. And what I did was basically build a YouTube channel, and it started crushing, because the cold ads, the cold DMs, everything was basically not, all right, buy my shit right now. It was watch my YouTube video and buy later. And what I noticed, we scaled very fast. We also like around 500K a month instead of like maybe like 1.5 years or so through YouTube, basically organic. But I'm curious because I honestly feel like the organic side of things is so much more chill and so much like easier to handle. I'm very curious why you switched the exact opposite direction.
Because of exactly that. Like, everybody wants easy. And I'm like, if you're not prepared for hard, then you're going to be dependent on easy. And the problem is, though, with organic, it's a difficult strategy to be dependent on, because you know it probably as well as anybody else. Like, you'll have weeks where just like every piece of content that you're posting goes semi-viral or viral. All of a sudden, you're drowning in leads. And you're like, well, okay, we cannot handle all the leads. Cool, great, we're growing. Let me hire more staff. You hire more staff, but now you have a month of dry spell where your videos are not firing as well. You maybe not going viral. And I like, well, we have less. Or maybe you even hit a crazy dry spell of like 6 months. Or you perhaps even get freaking deplatformed because of some algorithm issues. We've had this last year so many times just before you could buy verification on your Instagram by paying Meta directly. Just before that, I would keep getting messages from scammers from, Malaysia, India, whatnot. And they're like, hey, we're going to mass report your profile. And it's going to be down unless you pay us $500 in Bitcoin, which of course I always ignored. Now we have even reps at Facebook, at Meta, because we're spending a ton of ad spend. I would literally send them a screenshot of like, hey guys, my account is going to be mass reported in the next 24 hours. Just heads up, like, please make sure this doesn't happen. My company depends on this. We're getting like 400 leads per freaking day on Instagram. Like, there's going to be mass reports coming in. Here's the screenshot. Here's the account. And they're like, okay, we'll try to do our best. Next day I wake up, it's mass reported. And I'm like, hey, remember I wrote you guys? And they're like, well, we got to look into it. We got to escalate it up to the blah, blah, blah team. Like sometimes my Instagram, before we could fix that problem forever, my Instagram would just be down for like 3 weeks, right? So again, thank God we had cold traffic running there because it's not a problem. So you don't want to be too dependent on your content going viral. And again, if you see it as a bonus, and if you say, hey, Max has had a skiing accident and he can't create any content for 2 months because he's in the freaking hospital, like I wouldn't have a problem with that because the ad's still going to run.
I see. What I noticed with combining all of this was basically the discovery ad strategy generally. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that, where you just run like basically discovery ads on YouTube and generates like just leads to your YouTube channels through that. And for me, that was by far the most consistent thing I saw. But for you, I saw like in a recent interview you did, you said one of your goals is hitting like 1 million a month, which is the same exact thing for me. Do you think you have to do something different to get there, or more of what you do?
Well, both, of course. You definitely want to do more of the stuff that works, kind of like on a more practical level. But on a meta level, you're basically switching from, okay, I have an ad that works and we're going to sell. And the better our ads are, the better our sales are, the more money we're going to make. You have to switch from that to people thinking. It's literally the most common lack of skill I see with coaches that are making 30K upwards all the way to multiple 100K, because you're not running an operation that is just built on one single person plus some software. Like if you have a high ticket coaching offer, you're going to have coaches that help you with the delivery. You're going to have a social media team that posts content. You're going to have a closing team, a sales team, setters, closers. You're going to have lead gen team. So these are all freaking people. And you can absolutely make, I would say 300, 400K a month with a B player team, but there's a ceiling after that. So now you can either just hire 3 times more people than you need, and they're all B players, which is going to be a nightmare in terms of organization, management, and leadership. Or you bite the bullet and you say, all right, everybody out that is not an A player, just eat shit for the next 6 to 12 months while you replace them with A players and you build a team around A players. So it's almost like the company needs to be detoxified of every bad apple in your team and needs to be replaced with someone who actually really knows what they're doing. Because also, if you don't do that, you're going to have really, really low margins. And I see this so many times with people like, oh, here we got our freaking 2 Comma Club ClickFunnels award. We got 10 million. Yeah. What's your margins? Okay. What's your margins? And that's also why I joked around with this with my good friend Andreas the other day. He's like, yeah, look at all these gurus in the US because they all make so much revenue, but they all freaking lose their mind. They all freaking go crazy. They grow long hair, then they live in a hut in the jungle for 6 months because they can't handle their ultra low margins. Well, you're gonna have ultra low margins if the people you have in your company are not overperforming. And very rarely I see 8-figure companies actually have complete freaking A players. So now you pay these people a lot, but you don't pay a lot of people. So your plus you're not losing your mind managing, training, and building the structures around these people. Like at some point, every single key position in your company needs unnegotiably be covered by an A player. Sure, if you have some whatever editor for reels, that person doesn't need to be an A player, or a cleaning lady doesn't need to be an A player. But your head of sales, all your closers, all your setters, your head of social media, all your coaches, all of them need to be A players. If not, this whole thing is going to implode on you, especially if you're targeting $1 million a month.
Yeah. I can relate to that so much. I remember, like, I literally in my whole life, I had the longest plateaus I ever had was 50K a month and then 200K a month. It was stuck on those two numbers forever. And it was all like, especially the 200K one, it was just hiring. It was just like basically two people I got in. And I also noticed that even if everything seems to be really good, there's one bottleneck which fucks everything up. And what you said was basically, all right, you have a great sales guy, you have a great this, and this, but just one person is missing and everything doesn't scale. And I've seen this for me, especially in the support system, where like you keep making more and more clients. At some point, it's really tough to actually handle all the clients at the same time, right? And like my personal solution was just hiring students. And what I saw is the easiest thing for me is like I was working with them for at least half a year, 1 year. I already know exactly who they are, and I've seen that those hires are so much better than everybody else. Like I cannot know a person from 1 hour interview or whatever as well as a student which I've worked for like with a couple of years. So what's your take on like what's your hiring process generally? Do you also hire students? Is it just like fan base? Because I know like a bunch of people just are fanboys of yours overall for the last like 10 years or so.
All of it. So we've hired directly from the brand. We've hired complete strangers. We've gotten people from referrals. We've worked with people from agencies. I haven't seen any patterns yet where it's like, oh, all fanboys suck or all people that don't know us suck. What we do have though is we have a 3-interview structure, especially for sales reps. Because like you said, like just from a freaking 1 hour interview, you can't see it. So we actually sift out, I would say 90 to 95% of the applicants already in the DMs when they DM us or email us. We have a specific list of no-go criteria that we send them right away after they apply. So it's like, hey, thanks for applying for the closer positions. I have a couple of preliminary questions that I want to ask you before I send you more details. And then it's just like question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is like, where are you based and how old are you? What's your previous experience? What was your best month? What was your best month in terms of revenue generated? What was your best month in terms of closing? How many outbound calls have you done in your life? How many are you used to doing dialing per day? All these just no-go criteria. And that's already like 80% just going to sift out. Like is not used to outbound, isn't old enough, hasn't generated enough yet, la-di-da-da-da, like doesn't like answered 6 out of the 9 questions, can't follow instructions. She's just like all out, sift out already. And then of course also voice message, like, oh, too thick of an accent, off you go. Sound weird, off you go. Because we asked them to leave a voice message back. That's one thing. So we sifted a lot of people there already. And then we send them a scorecard, right? For people who don't know, a scorecard is basically a combination of all the numbers that they need to know about the position of like, hey, these are your KPIs. So this is what the position entails. This is where the leads are coming from. These are your KPIs going to be. This is where what you'll be expected to hit in terms of dials. This is what your minimum closing rate needs to be. And also, of course, like these are kind of like the mindsets that we're looking for. This is what your working hours will look like. This is what the training looks like. This is what the ramp up looks like. Here's the pay compensation. Here's the expected pay based on the current numbers of the company, the OTEs, the on-track earnings. So that's all there in like a 3-page document plus a 20-minute Loom video of me actually going through it and just kind of like adding a couple of contextual points in case the document is not enough. So we send them that only after they've already shown with the no-go criteria or must-have criteria that they're a good fit, plus the voice message and all that. So we send them that because I don't want to be on a freaking interview, or I don't want my team to be on an interview to then, screen the person out. And then the person is like, by the way, what are the working hours? And then it's like, oh, I can't do this. Bye. Right. So it's like, here's the position. So by the time we talk to candidate, we already know they have the utmost bare minimum criteria is already in place. Plus they know the exact position. They know everything. And it's really cool because number one, it makes the interviewing process much shorter on the human side. Like we don't need to spend as much time. Number two, a lot of people that are A players will find these things very attractive because a lot of A players are on the market because there was some sort of issue in their previous employment that didn't have enough leads, right? So now when they see the scorecard before they even hop on the call, they're like, oh, well, I see the numbers here. This is much more leads than I'm used to. Problem number two could often be like, yeah, the company, like the CEO wasn't involved. The CEO was overwhelmed, had no idea. Nobody knew what to do. Very unorganized, disorganized. Oh, holy shit. This guy sends me a scorecard with like every single number broken down. Holy shit. Like this is amazing. So it's like, I've had so many A players that we ended up hiring coming to me and saying, one of the reasons why I wanted to come here was the scorecard that you sent me. Like I've never seen this before. It's so detailed. Like the entire structure was so on point. And then, even you were laughing earlier when I came to this podcast 2 minutes late. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. Like we've had this with people where we're like, hey, see you in our interview in 11 minutes. And they're like, damn, this guy doesn't even say 10 minutes. He says 11. Like they're so precise. I love this. So this very rigorous and very transparent and very detailed hiring approach before the interview doesn't only save us a lot of time, but it also makes our position very attractive for A players. And every A player, if they really are one, they have a lot of options. They have a lot of different offers that can hop onto. So this already makes us stand out. And then we have interview number one. Interview number one is literally just a mock call because I already know what the voice of that person sounds like. I already met them, got to know them in the chat a little bit. Plus, I know that they have I know their latest 2 years of experience. I know their numbers. I know all that. So I don't need to freaking ask that again. It's literally just like, hey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You're doing well. Cool. 30-second small talk. Hey, let's do a mock call. Following situation. You're going to pitch me this. This is the price point. This is my background. Imagine we've just been on a 1 hour discovery phase and I told you this. And now you're going to pitch me and I'm going to give you stupid objections. So now the person is going to pitch me and I'm going to give him the 4 to 5 most common objections I know my sales team gets. This is when I do the interview. I've done the interviews for a very, very long time myself. I just lately started delegating it, but this is what we do is that we give them the most common objections that we know we get. And if they then can't handle those, you'll be surprised how many top level closers come and they can't handle objections because I have to say, our offer to make money online, B2C, biz op, B2B niche is very freaking tough. Like it's going to be a tough sale. If you're not 100% on point, if you can't even handle objections, get out of my team. So if the person can't handle the objections, they're out. Most A players are relatively good, but they're going to have, I would say, 10 to 20% mistakes in there, which is fine. Like they get the close nonetheless. And what I then do is like, they have to close me and then I give them feedback. And then I literally tell them, listen, I like what we did so far. You get into the next round. You're going to have a second interview with a second rep of ours, usually our head of sales, head of setting, someone that is more senior. And I'm going to give you feedback right now. And in that second call, you're going to be screened for the exact implementation of the exact feedback I'm giving you right now. You can write down notes. You can ask questions, no problem, but you better not fuck this up again. Right? So the reason why we're doing this is because nobody's perfect, especially when they're asked to just pitch ad hoc. But we don't mind if someone's not perfect, but we would really mind if someone cannot implement feedback. And I mean, you probably know this yourself already, Michael. It's like so many people, you would give them feedback and they're like, yes, great. I understand. Thank you for the feedback. And then they make the exact same mistake on the next call. We don't need these people. So it's a specific skill that you cannot train, just implementation of feedback, because we're going to give our closers everything. Like every single closer that started working with us, they've never seen that kind of support in any other company. They have daily call reviews, daily weekly one-on-ones, daily sales team meetings. We review everything, especially in the beginning. We like help them out. We coach them. We give them personal development advice. Like we're really there because those folks making us a ton of money. But it doesn't make sense if the person cannot implement the feedback that they're getting from us. So that is why we have interview 1, we give them feedback. Interview 2 is another mock call with specific screening of the implementation of that feedback. And only if they then 95% flawlessly executed the exact feedback I gave them in call 1, in call 2, then they get interview 3. And interview 3 is actually more like a culture fit type of interview where we're like, we really like you so far. One thing that I had a question, like earlier, you told me that you worked for 2 years here. What exactly happened there? I didn't quite understand it. So that's where we're really trying to dig up shit. Like we really try to dig deep and be like, okay, what are some discrepancies here that might not be there? Is the mindset whack? And if the candidate is still good, we call this the hell yeah mode. It's like the candidate needs to be a hell yeah, like not a yeah, he's good, I think he could do well. No, the candidate needs to be a hell yeah, I really want that person in my company. Hell the frick yeah, let's go. Only if the candidate is that, then we basically make them an offer at the end of the 3rd interview. And the offer is literally, this is what your day-to-day looks like. Here's the scorecard again. Take 24 hours to think about it because it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. This. And we almost try to talk them out of the position. And also there alone, I would say about 25% then actually say no. Like they come back 24 hours later and they say, hey, I thought about it. And yeah, it's just not for me. Because again, like we don't want to sell people on the idea of working with us, because unless they're with full soul and belief in there, they're just going to leave. So yeah, the last step is then we just tell them like, hey, this position is really tough. Think about it. Give us 24 hours and then let us know if you're in. And then if they're in, we're going to hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm. So interesting because like interview number 3, especially, I see so many people fucking up in terms of asking the completely wrong questions. They're like, are you a hustler? Are you a hard worker?
Yeah.
Of course I am. Yeah, sure.
And
I feel like what I saw is the phrasing of the question determines everything. And if you start baiting out him shit talking his last boss or whatever, you already know it's a bad fit.
Exactly.
But it wouldn't have happened if you asked the wrong questions. I think I was maybe fortunate, maybe unfortunate, in the regard of having to skip a lot of these steps, because with hiring clients, I know all of this already. I know if they actually are dedicated, if they are hardworking, and all of these things. And because I worked with them for such a long time, I know. I tell them in the call, do this, and they do it next day, and they're super fast, and they're like get this shit done. And I saw that was the main KPI I was just looking for. Do I like them personally? Do I like? Are they cool? And also, are they actually? Do they get their shit done?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's gonna like fuck me up in a couple of years where I would have to do it somehow else, and then I don't have this entire process, because how structured you just said it. If you would see mine, you would be like, "What the fuck are you doing? What's going on here?" Because I don't have any of that. We just I like you, just work for us, and so far it was working out well. But I'm sure at some point it's gonna have to like be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. For you, like, what was the biggest or the longest plateau you ever hit after hitting the first 100K month? So, and also, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, very similar. I would say like the 200, 300K mark is like sometimes we'd hit 300K and we're like, we're ready to scale. And it went back to 200 or 180 or something like that. And it was exactly what I said earlier. It was like not realizing that it's all about the people. It's like the ads, we increased the ad spend. We would increase the ad spend. We would spend like freaking 30% more, but we wouldn't be making 30% more because it turns out that the setters couldn't handle the volume, right? It would almost go in a different direction. It's like because we had too many leads, the sales reps that back then were just full of B players, they'd be like, well, I don't need to go for the hard close on this person because I got 6 more people on my calendar. Bye, right? So it almost went backwards. They closed less, closing rate went down. Whereas an A player would not diminish their, an A player would not go down with their standards just because they had more opportunities. So we got stuck there for like 1.5, 2 years and basically sifted out 90% of our sales staff. They either were fired straight away or they just left because they like B players always leave when they smell that it's going to become too difficult. A players, they smell it becomes difficult and they say, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So, like, how many sales guys do you have, first of all? Like closers, not setters?
Five
Really?
right now, yeah.
Okay. So how come? Do they do you spread the leads between or all of them, or how does that work?
Yep. So we always say we have a meritocracy. It doesn't matter if you come in and you're like the new closer. If you come in as a new closer, and God forbid, not going to happen, but if it happens that you outclose the top closer, that is literally our sales manager and top closer, I don't care. I'm going to give you the best leads. There's no this whole concept of seniority is bullshit. Like, you crush it, you get the best leads. You suck at it, you're going to get the worst leads until you get your shit together. And that's again, you always you want to create an environment where an A player that is on the outside thinking about joining you says, okay, that's exactly what I want. An A player is not going to be like, hey, you come to us, and even if you're good, the senior guy is going to get the better sit. Like, an A player is not going to go there. So the entire structure, my entire environment is just built on A player, pushing away B players, making it so unattractive for a slack or B player, and making it as attractive as possible for an A player. And funny enough, everything that is attractive for an A player is super unattractive for a B player, right? So you kind of get two birds with one stone. And so yeah, it's if you're the best closer, you get the best leads. We check on around a bi-weekly pace. So it's oh, you've been absolutely crushing it the last 2 weeks. Okay, you're going to move up one position and you're going to go from third most prioritized closer to the second most prioritized closer. Oh, you've had a tough time last 2 weeks. Here's a pip with the exact numbers that we need to see. Here's increased one-on-ones with your sales manager, or even with me personally. We're going to figure out what's happening. But in the meanwhile, we're going to give you slightly less good leads. That actually, again, for a B player, they would be like, oh, worse leads? That sucks. I'm out of here, right? An A player actually says, hey, it's good that you give me worse leads, because now I don't have to feel as much pressure while I'm figuring out what I need to work on. And it's great practice for me. Thank you, guys. And hell yeah, I love the challenge. Can't wait to be up at the top again and be battling with so-and-so against the best leads. Let's go bring it on. So it's again, it's they're very much the opposite of each other, what an A player reacts and what a B player reacts to.
I see. Well, what's the pro of having that many closers? Because currently what's going on with us, and I'm genuinely curious, because we have one closer and one upsell closer, and that's basically it. And if we would hire a second upfront closer, I would just see how my main closer would have just half the leads, and that's it. So do you think it's just different for you guys because you probably have more leads but lower quality, and we have it's less leads, or what do you think is the difference here?
I wouldn't really say we have less leads but lower quality, because also we have setters that sift them out, and we sift out really, really, really hard in our applications already. I think by the time someone gets to book a call, 80% are already sift out.
Yeah, same.
So it's that. Plus, all of our closers are also required to do outbound. Again, the top 2 to 3 closers, they'll still have a full calendar because they are prioritized. So they don't even ever get to do any outbound calls because they just always have a full calendar with double and triple scheduled leads. And then only the bottom is hey, you got whatever, you have half your calendar open. Here's a bunch of really awesome leads. Go call them, schedule them for yourself. They do get higher commission there too. So that's good. They get almost 50% higher commission when they schedule somebody themselves from outbound. So it incentivizes them more. Plus, we double schedule a ton just to compensate for no-shows. So basically every single slot that is open on our calendar gets booked double. We're in some cases, only one person shows up. No problem, because you got double scheduled. Best case scenario, 2 people show up. While in this case, the setter actually takes over the lower quality lead.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
In general, for me, I was always a big fan of not focusing on details at all. I basically don't care about the small things. I started with email marketing and stuff like that, for example, when I was at 300K or so. So all these smaller things which give you a 10% increase, I never saw as the most valuable thing. And I was all right, let me just focus on the most important, in my case, YouTube content, that's it.
Yeah.
And not do anything else. First of all, what would you say is that one thing for you?
So I love that, because I always say like a lot of business owners, they don't even understand what their primary and their secondary skill are.
Yeah.
And they're just dicking around with the tertiary skills. So for me, my tertiary skill is actually sales. My primary and my secondary skills is talking to people and creating content. So that is why, like, again, like last year was really tough because I had to do the sales stuff and I really wanted to scale the team up to a great level, which we have it now, which is freaking fantastic. But it was my tertiary skill. What happened was because it was not my primary or secondary skill, I had to compensate for that just with pure volume, just brute force, as Alex Hormozy says it. So what I had to do is I'm like, okay, it's not my primary or secondary skill, so I have to work extra hard to compensate for that, which is not an issue for me. I'm a freaking beast. I always say you can't outwork me. You're not gonna ever. Nobody outworks me. I outwork everybody. I'm such a arrogant. But anyways, my primary skill is, like you said, YouTube content, Instagram content, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. I just post all day. I love that. As you can see, you can barely shut me up on your podcast here. It's your podcast. I'm the guy who talks all the time. So I love that. I love that stuff. So I agree with you. It's like find out what your primary and secondary skill is and freaking hone it and go all out on it.
Did you ever had any like specific details which you did change and it shocked you and I was like, what the fuck? Like this is way better now.
I did change. What did you say?
Like,
details,
do you have a specific detail, a smaller thing, like email marketing for these smaller things, which did end up changing a lot for you?
Yeah, a lot of things. A CMO for me was really a CMO because my the skill of numbers and funnels is not on my scale of skills. It's not my fourth, fifth, sixth skill. It's just like, I don't know. I love creating content and I love rambling and I love people. So one of the biggest game changers was actually getting a CMO on board. Now, as you probably know, chief marketing officer, the good ones, they all gonna want to have a cut of the profit, 15%, 20% of the profit. So I was like, no way in hell, not going to do that. Not going to give some other guy a cut for them to basically profit off my brand and what I've been building before them for years. But I had to overcome that and be like, yes, I might have to give him 15, 20% of my profit, but all that person has to do is make us grow profit-wise for 15 to 20%, which they probably will if they're really freaking good. So for me, a real big game changer was kind of like letting other people help me grow the baby that I've built, so to speak. It's like, this is my baby. Nobody else going to do anything with it. And then just having someone come in. And funny enough, because you said like you hire your own students. Same was for me. That guy, Robin Bauman, was one of our very first clients back then in Freedom Business Mentoring. He spent his last $3K, and he talks about this publicly. That's why I can talk about it. He spent his last $3K on our program, was one of our first clients, started crushing it, started getting really into marketing. And for like his skill is just funnels, ads, marketing. And he's at such a level there that like that's what he does for his off time. You know what I mean? Like his vacation is going to freaking Jeremy Haynes' mastermind in Miami. That's his, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, that you want that guy on your team, you know, the guy who in his spare time reads about freaking VSLs.
I had the same thing happen with my editor where we were like in Dubai all together hanging out. He was literally there on his laptop, just watching editing tutorials, nothing else. He was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to go out. And I was like, you're the man. And later on, he was almost took by me by Iman Gaji. He almost took him from me, but he still stays strong.
That's loyal. The thing. So surround yourself with people that basically complete you. So now I got this guy being on numbers and VSLs and ads. Now I can go all freaking out on just content creating and being on podcasts and shooting podcast episodes myself. And now my sales manager, Nico, he's just making closes and being there for the team. So in an ideal world, you got to kind of overcome that ego thing of like, oh, it's just me at the top. It's just me at the top. And that was the biggest game changer for me. Conversely, there's a lot of people who are like, I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to hire random people for whom I have no idea. I know that doesn't work. So I think you kind of got to come from the mindset of I do everything myself first, because then you know what's good. You can distinguish the BS talkers that can just talk from the people that actually have the know-how. And then you transition into like, okay, I'm going to trust in the universe. I'm going to trust in the skills of the people that I hire. And I'm now going to focus primarily on my primary and secondary skill sets.
For sure. I think a lot of people, confuse a thing in between feeling productive and being productive. And it's a thing where you feel super productive when you do a thing which is very repetitive and an employee could do it for you, and then you give it away, and all of a sudden you feel unproductive, when in reality the same exact productivity level stayed the same because the guy is still doing the task, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed this thing for me where, like, it doesn't matter what kind of morning routine I have, whatever it is. I have 20 employees. Like, I don't care. Things get done, and like it just goes. And it doesn't matter how productive or unproductive I am. It just works. Did you ever struggle with that, where you have given away a bunch of stuff and you're like, all right, what do I do now?
Yeah. I remember once I was we do everything online now, but back in the days I had offices in Kiev. I have had 2 offices in Kiev. I remember once walking in and some guy was like, "Hey, who's this?" And they're like, "That's the CEO." And so it's just like my own staff didn't know who I was. We even had the cleaning lady. Do you know that? Or the cleaning lady thought that one of my closers is the boss, and because she's Ukrainian, she doesn't speak English. So the whole first month, the cleaning lady thought I'm just some low level employee, like, oh, the short weird guy. And then we had this really tall, handsome, broad shoulders, good looking closer, and she thought he's the boss. So that's really funny, and I like that. I'm like, wow, I made myself obsolete. I almost saw that as a compliment. It's like a father who brings up his children, and then they venture out into the world and they crush it, and they don't need him anymore. I think that's a very beautiful thing to see.
100%. Coming to that, where you basically say you did end up having like way more free time, etc. What would you say is your favorite thing to spend money on? Where do you have like the highest ROI on fun, happiness, etc.?
It's so weird. I just talked about my team to my team about this. I love Lego, and it's funny because like the things I love the most cost the least. I love Star Wars Lego. I tell my whole family because they're like, what should we give the guy that already has everything for his birthday? And I'm always say Star Wars Lego. There's always new stuff coming out. Just buy cool stuff. Like literally in this room behind me, I got like an AT-AT. I got a freaking X-Wing fighter. I love that stuff. I just sit down, I listen to Joe Rogan, and I just build Lego. And then either like usually I give it away. I have a big family with a lot of cousins. I'm like, hey, I'm like the cool uncle that always brings them fully constructed Lego already. Here's the Lego.
I did not expect that. I was expecting a very different answer than I like Lego.
Look, I've had a very immature phase. I would say from 2018 to 2020, where I just like, I've been on the $30,000 vacations with my girlfriend, the nice 5-star, flying everywhere first class, and yeah, with traveling, I still try to do first class as much as possible because I've traveled the world and I'm kind of traumatized from too much traveling. But I don't know. It's like I got that out of my system. I rented the Lambos. I rent the Ferrari. I drive around. I do all the cool stuff. I go to the most expensive restaurant in the city. I put my Rolex on and I'm like acting like I'm the coolest mofo in town. I've done all that. I kind of got that out of my system. And I think it was important for me to do it just to prove myself I can. But also just to show myself that to give myself the chance of like, hey, try this, see if it makes you happy. I didn't want to just be one of these guys that says money doesn't buy happiness. Yeah, because you're broke, right? So I'm like, well, let me make a ton of money so I can do all the cool stuff, go to Dubai with a bunch of really attractive friends and rent a villa and stay there and then drive around in the Lambo, or take my girlfriend out for like a $30,000 vacation. I've done all these things. I'm like, it's decent, it's cool, definitely. I wouldn't say I was miserable. I loved it. But then also I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of love being at home in Austria. We have an apartment here overlooking the lake. And I eat the burgers that I'm cooking myself from the farmer. And I drink the milk that I got from the farmer. And then maybe I go snowboarding and play some Lego. And then I play some PlayStation. My life hasn't really changed much in this regard. I still like doing the same things I loved when I was a teenager or in my early 20s.
Yeah, interesting. Do you remember like one specific thing where you did spend money and it was like, damn, this actually made me happy?
This actually made me or didn't make me happy?
It did make me happy. Did.
Funny enough, like I remember I was once, I was in Thailand with my girlfriend, one of the $30,000 vacations. And we were like in the resort and they had like a couple activities. And one of the activities was go to a gibbon rehabilitation center. Gibbons are monkeys. They're like jungle monkeys. So we drive there to the edge of the jungle, and there was this rehabilitation center. And you know, you could see the gibbons being all happy, and you know, we talked to the guy. He spoke a little bit of English, what they do, and I'm like, cool, like, can I make a donation? And he's like, yeah, sure. What do you want to donate? And I'm like, yeah, 5,000. He's like, 5,000 baht, right? The local currency. I'm like, no, dollars. And he's like, you want to donate $5,000? I'm like, yeah, why not? You take Visa. And now he mumbo jumbos to his friends in Thai, like, ding, 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 5,000. And the Thai friends are like, dollar? And it's like, yeah. So they're all like excited. And I don't know, like, I donated $5,000. It wasn't a big deal for me, but like on the way home, I felt so good. I'm like, those guys were so hyped. And it was so beautiful because they weren't hyped about themselves. They were hyped about the freaking little monkeys. Like, oh, we can buy this for the monkeys. And then I kind of realized, like, the things that kind of weirdly enough give the most joy is like things you give to others. So I just started giving more. My girlfriend and I do this thing every year where we pick an orphanage and we just donate. Like, we contact the social worker there, and then we say, hey, like, can you ask all the kids in here what they want for Christmas? And like, every kid can pick something for like 150 euros. And then they literally get like a Santa Claus wish list. And then my girlfriend and I, we spend the next 2 weeks of actually getting them the exact thing, like the exact GoPro camera in this exact color. We actually get it to them. And then because you do it anonymously, you literally just drop the presents off. And again, like, my girlfriend and I, we love it. Like, we talk about that for like the whole evening. And so I think this is really like the happiest stuff. But I don't want to look like this like Sam Mauritian now. So I also want to give kind of like an answer of something that made me happy.
No, I mean, every single time I ask this question, this is the exact answer which most of the people give it. No, for sure. Like, like, for some weird reason, just giving is the most fulfilling and most fun thing ever.
So weird,
return,
right?
Yeah, the return on that is so much higher than on anything else.
It's so cool. And I'm happy to hear from you that everybody says that's freaking fantastic.
For sure.
I still kind of want to think of something that I bought for myself.
Go ahead.
My snowboard. I bought a really epic powder snowboard, and I rode. It was the first time I rode a powder snowboard. It completely changed my life. I'm like, best whatever $600 or whatever that I ever spent. Plus you have certain things like symbolic value. One of the watches that I bought, a Rolex Sky Dweller, I bought after a really, really tough year. That was just a year of like so many people leaving and me having to fire them. And then at the end of the year, we crushed it. And I'm like, I want to buy this Rolex, not just because it's expensive, but also because it stands for resilience. It stands for never giving up. And I think that also kind of brought me some, every time I put it on, I remember that it brought me some weird sense of happiness.
Yeah. But it sounds like you're not going crazy hard on spending money right now for lifestyle stuff. How much would you say on average does it actually take? Like, how much are you spending per month on average?
I know exactly because I write it down. It's around 10K a month.
Really?
Yeah.
You do it. I hate writing it down. I don't want to know. I don't want to look at the price. I don't want to know anything.
Same for me. So I don't look at the price when I buy it, when I make the decision. But after I bought it, I was like, oh, how much was it? And then I put it in an Excel sheet. So funny story there. I used to never look at it. And I was like, I live very frugal for the amount of money I make. And I probably spend like 5K a month. And then I looked, and then I started tracking it. I'm like, oh, I spend like 40,000 a month. And I'm like, what did I buy? And it wasn't even anything specific. It was just flights, t-shirts.
Just not looking at the price is really expensive.
And like restaurants. And I'm like, oh my God, I spent 40,000. God damn it. So I just write it down. And like I said, like, I've kind of gotten that out of my system, all the crazy spending. And now I just invest it. I don't count that as spending it. Sure. I just invested either back into the business or into, things like diversifying crypto, stock, gold, and so on and so forth.
For me, the concept of saving generally was always a little bit weird, because I felt like when you save, what you really do is you wait for later. Like, you basically give yourself money just later, right? You take it right now and give it to yourself later on. I'm expecting for myself that I'm going to make more money later than now. So the value I'm going to get from the money later is also going to be smaller than currently. Because obviously, if me as a kid spending $10 on an ice cream or saving it and giving to me right now, I don't care about $10 now, but the ice cream was amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I hope the same thing is going to go for the future. And like I try to always remind myself of that whenever I'm like unsure of should I buy this? Is it too expensive or not? What's your take on that?
It's like anything I bought I never needed. So that's always important. Like I never want to be like, I need these pair of shoes because it will make me feel complete. I remember there was once these shoes that I wanted to buy, the Philipp Plein, like the 5,000 euro shoes. And I'm like, that's kind of cool, but I don't need it. So I'm always like, for me, it's more like, am I going to use this thing? Right. So for a snowboard, I'm like 100% I'm going to use it and I'm going to ride it till it's full of holes and scratches. Cool. But then sometimes I'm like, do I really want to buy this watch just because I want to be cool right now? Right. Or am I actually going to use it? Like, do I have outfits that go with it? So that's kind of like how I'm thinking. But this is less in terms of spending. That's more in terms of like, I hate having a lot of stuff. Also because since the war in Ukraine, I've basically just been traveling. I have my home base in Cyprus where I spend, multiple months per year. And I'm like, it needs to fit into my 2 suitcases. I have a 2 suitcase setup and I don't want to buy random stuff and then it just lies around and I can't travel with it. So it's almost like, the Fight Club saying the things you own end up owning you. That's kind of like, I don't want to be at the mercy of a thing that I buy and then it doesn't fit into the suitcase and then I have to figure it out and stuff like that. That changes now because I'm actually moving together with my girlfriend. We're going to travel together and all that jazz. But I kind of want to buy a simulator, a race car simulator, like an actual simulation rig, And then what I want to do, I forgot your question, but I was rambling. But what I want to do is, here's my plan. I'm going to put this out there so I'm forced to do it, okay? Step 1, buy a race car simulator. Practice on it for about a year or 2 until I'm really good. Step 2, get my amateur racing license in Germany and Austria. Step 3, invest in a team, Porsche Cup team, DMT, something like that, Group 3, Group 4. And step 4 is just like become an amateur racer, maybe win a couple races. That would be really, really sick.
Sounds good. I have a completely different question here. You obviously are super tatted up. Did you notice, like, do you think your brand would have be different, made more money, made less money, but will be the same if you wouldn't have tattoos?
Yeah, we've had these discussions a lot of times internally. Of course, there's nothing really you can do anyways about it. So it's kind of just hypotheticals. The reason why I got a lot of tattoos, I got my first tattoo actually when I was creating my first program in 2016, my first online digital product. And that one actually was the one that ended up making me my first million. So for me, it was like, I almost killed myself over the creation of this program. And it was so tough that I said, if I ever survive that, I'm going to get a tattoo. And it was actually this one here that says freedom. It's Attic Greek for freedom. So that was my first tattoo I ever got. And then I remember very soon after that, I started getting my hands tattooed and my fingers. And I remember I kind of had a frank talk with myself saying like, hey, Max, there's no turning back. Like right now you are making millions, but who knows if this is going to last forever? What if you're going to need to get a job? Because you probably won't ever get a job with finger tattoos. So, and then I'm like, yeah, damn it. Maybe I shouldn't do it. And then the next morning I woke up and I'm like, wait, isn't that the goal? To never get a job anymore? So you have to make this business thing work? All right. And that was enough for me to know it. And then I got these tattoos. And then, I started getting a little bit more. I gathered experience, like a lot of these tattoos actually remind me of experiences when I was in different cities, different countries, and so forth. So, funny enough, you win some, you lose some, to answer your question. So did people see my ad and say, this guy has crazy tattoos, he can't be good at what he's supposedly teaching? Probably yes. But then also we've had people literally on sales calls saying, you guys are the first guys that I kind of feel like are legit because Max has these tattoos and he kind of looks like just a normal person, like maybe not like a normal person, but like he looks like someone just from around the house, like like I can trust. Guy. I feel like like a regular guy. Like I feel like he's more down to earth as opposed to all the gurus out there that kind of all look the same. So you win
Yeah.
some, you lose some. Ultimately, for me, it was always like, I don't want to. Same for the reason why I'm swearing. Like, if I wouldn't swear in videos, it would probably make me slightly more money. But then also my quality of life would go down because I would always have a filter. Oh, can I say this? Can I say that? So I said, hey, listen, like the whole idea is that my quality of life is really good and that I get to give a lot of value to the people who really want to work with me. And if you don't want to work with me because I'm swearing or because I have tattoos, it probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. So feel free to please buy somewhere else.
I think it's very interesting what you said with like no safety net, no nothing, just with the tattoos themselves. Like a similar thing which happened to me was basically I like in Germany you do like the Abitur thing, the how is it called, degree, whatever. Basically the thing you finish high school. You get papers if you finish it, but I had to give back all the books I got from the school, and I literally didn't find them to get the paper. And I thought to myself, well, how cool would it be to just not take it ever? And I have this bet with my dad, and it's still ongoing, that in the next 10 years, I'm not going to need the paper. So let's find out if that's going to be the case or not. But I hope so. But anyways, for you, I'm preparing for this interview here. I saw a podcast with you and Nikki Bra, and you said you almost 10 extra testosterone level in just like 1 or 2. How the fuck did you do that?
That's an excellent question. You're going to have to ask Nikki Bra. I get this question a lot because, look, I am too busy and I'm too little interested in nutrition and fitness for me to really care. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to buy from Nikki Bra and shout out to him. I was like, Nikki Bra, I heard you're really good. I saw a lot of great transformations. Can I give you money and you just tell me what to do? And then I get fitter and better. And he's like, sure. So, you know, I haven't looked at his program at all. I just like, what should I eat? And he's like, this, here's your macros. And I'm like, thank you, sir. See you next week. That's all I did.
So only the eating was different.
Yes. The exercises were very similar. The new exercises you gave me were very similar to what I had already been doing. I'm pretty sure a lot of it probably has to do with me also coincidingly eating meat when I started working with Nikki Bra. Because I also knew, like, you know, he's very much against vegetarianism, veganism, and I had been vegetarian for 12 years, 12 and a half. And then I started working with him and I'm like, hey, I have no clue about eating meat, but I want to transition. Can you help me? And, you know, his answers were always very short and they were never explanatory. Also, I never cared. So I'm just like, how do I eat the meat? And he's like, well, just make it like this. And this is what you're going to eat and eat some. And also the macros that he gave me, you kind of have to eat meat. Otherwise, it's really hard to hit. I eat 265 grams of protein, 60 grams of fat. Yeah, nice. You can almost only hit that anyways with animal products, animal proteins. So yeah, that's how I did it.
Do you genuinely feel different, or is it something which just happened and you didn't really know? Like the blood work, it tells you you're
super different. Like day and freaking night. I remember, when I started transitioning, when I became a vegetarian at first, I was 19. And at first I felt a surge in energy and I felt really good because as a vegetarian, I automatically ate much less junk food, much less fast food, because burger has meat, pizza, meat, kebab, meat. So I started eating kind of healthier and I felt really good for the first 2-3 years, which usually happens when you're a vegetarian or vegan, because all the shortcomings are accumulating over years. And then at some point, I had been literally training at the gym for about 10 years. And I'm like looking at myself in the mirror and I would look at pictures from 4 years before. And I'm like, I still look the same. Like there's not more gains, more like, what the hell am I doing? You know? And then I started feeling slowly, but steadily less and less strong. I felt weaker and I felt more tired and I felt more snappy, much more like stress would mess me up much more. But it happened so slowly over the last 3 years that you barely notice it, right? And when I then started eating meat, first thing that happened is I actually lost weight. I became much leaner and my muscles just blew up. They blew up. Like I would have t-shirts that couldn't fit me anymore from 1 week to the other. My pants wouldn't fit me because my leg muscles would explode. So all of a sudden I would get all the gains in the world. And I would also notice I would get much stronger. And I would come home from the same gym session, but instead of being tired and dead for 3 hours, I would do shadow boxing in the shower. I would feel so good. I had all this extra energy. And plus, like, stress wouldn't affect me as much anymore. I would become calmer. I had much better focus. I could work harder and work more.
Yeah.
And I honestly, when I was 31, 32, when I started eating meat again, I felt better than I felt at 25.
Crazy. It's very interesting that you say that, because like while watching your guys' podcast, I was literally about to buy from Nicky Brown. And I was like, yeah, let me go to his website. And what happened was I went to his website and it was like $500 a month or something. And I was like, oh, that's too cheap. I'm like, he's probably not going to be like working with me one-on-one together. I don't think I'm gonna, like, it's gonna be personalized. And I was like, all right, let's just not do it. And I caught myself doing it, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is why pricing is such a big thing. So like you obviously come from this world of like lower ticket, just landing page, buy my stuff, and that's it, which you did previously. How did everything change when you started doing high ticket?
It became a lot cooler. It became a lot more fun. Now, it sounds scarier when for someone that is used to high ticket, like you said, oh, it's just a page.
Yeah.
And you have less payroll to pay, less responsibility, you don't have to manage.
Human component comes in, like the sales guy, maybe he has a bad week and that's it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was used to just sit at home and every morning I would wake up and see the info product sales I would make. And sure, it's more responsibility, more pressure, more work, I would also argue. But then at the same time, first of all, you make way more money, because you're selling for a much higher product. Plus, your clients get better results. Is like, you can make an info product really good, but you got to be really good at it, right? So you got to have many reiterations of an info product for people to really get results. But if you just go high ticket, it's relatively easy to get people results as long as you keep them accountable. And then the cool thing was, like, I would like wake up in the morning and I would just walk down to the office, and they were, like, all the people that I hired, they were all cool people. Otherwise, I wouldn't want them in my company. So we would go in, the energy was great. This guy just made a close, the high five over there. We shoot videos together. I literally just had this like small group of really cool people around me. And then, on the weekends, we would go kart racing together. We go paintballing together. We had a gym in the same building of our office. You could go to the gym at any point of the day. There would be at least one of my employees in there. It's really cool. Like, so you kind of get this group, and they're all making money, and they're all growing, and you're all supporting each other. It's really cool. We have this online now, so it's kind of less like that, but it's still really freaking cool. Like, now almost any continent or country I go to, I have someone that works there, and then I meet them, and we go have steak, and we have a good time. So I prefer it like that, because the older I get, the more I kind of want to be able to serve people around me and pull them up, and sure, also challenge them. And not everybody grows with the challenge, and they need to be going. But at the same time, like, I kind of love that person aspect. I really grew into that.
Did your business take a dip after not having an office anymore and doing everything remote, or did it stay the same?
Funnily enough, no, not at all. So that's why we decided not to go back to an office. We're like, holy shit, this works arguably even better, because you need to be more careful with who you hire, right? Because like, you can't look over their shoulder all the time. So it would force you to get better at that. Plus, it's more attractive for your employees as well, right? For us, it was always kind of the thing of like, my offer is, hey, build your own business. So, you're free, freedom is mentoring, you can travel the world and all that jazz. And then, but my employees would have to go to the office all the time, right? So that was a little bit of a break in logic. It didn't matter. All of our employees loved it anyways, because we only hired A players, at least to a degree. And now it's like, oh, cool. Like, you work for Freedom Business Mentoring, and you got your own freedom too. Like, you live wherever you want. So that's kind of cool. So for us, it worked very, very well, luckily.
I see. Off topic here. I saw you basically, you have a girlfriend, and for a while already. So for me personally, like, the initial goal starting with business was always girls, just having time and doing a bunch of bullshit, right? So I couldn't imagine why the fuck I would keep doing business after I have a girlfriend. Now that I have one, it's like, well, of course, it's everything's much better. So did you see how having a girlfriend impacted your business?
Yeah, 100%. First of all, what I'm really happy about, the way it worked out for me, is like, I met my girlfriend in 2017. And even though I had made multiple millions at that point for about a year already, I still didn't live like it. Like for me, it took a while to really realize that this is real. So at the time where I met her, I literally lived in a 1,000 euro a month student apartment in Helsinki, and she didn't know that I had made all this money because I didn't look like it. I dressed like a bum for many, many years, like $9 H&M shirts, lived like a bum, would never go to restaurants, none of that. And, because she's a very, very attractive woman, beautiful blonde, blue eyes, typical Scandinavian, nice and lean, kind of like the model type that I'm very much into. And, because she's a very attractive woman, she thought, oh, a dating coach? Like, who the frick needs dating coaching? This guy's probably broke as hell. Like, nobody, like, he probably doesn't have any clients, right? So in her mind, I'm just some broke guy. But we fell in love with each other. And then I took her on vacation for the first time, and it was a $20,000 vacation, business class flights, 5-star resort. And then she's like, how much do you make money? And that was very, very far into our relationship already. And then I started taking her to LA, to Hawaii, when I was on tour and I was giving speeches. A lot of times she was with me. So for me, it's very important now that I know she fell in love with Max, thinking or not knowing that he was rich. I think that's an important aspect for a man.
Yep.
I could distinguish. I meet many women and I know, okay, they're just attracted to me because they know I make money or they see it. I could distinguish it anyways, but it's good to know anyways. Nonetheless, that I know my girlfriend was with me from the start. And then, many times I would say, hey, where do you want to go? What hotel do you want to stay in? Look at this. This one's 5 stars. This one has freaking golden plates or whatever. And she's like, I don't care as long as I'm with you. And I know it's true. And I think that's very important for every entrepreneur, just to know, like, even if shit would ever hit the fan, your girl will be with you. That's very important. And then to answer your question, what kind of happened to me over the last couple of years, we've been together for 7 years now. It wasn't in the beginning, the first 4 or 5 years. I didn't feel that, but especially in the last 2 to 3 years, I kind of transitioned from I'm making money for me to I'm making money for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see you nodding. You have the same. It's like I want and because my girlfriend never needs the most expensive clothes because she never asks for the 5-star resort.
That's what it makes.
That's
so attractive.
why she's gonna get it all.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Like I want us to live in the best places. I want us to go to the best vacations because she never asked for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I can feel that a lot. For you, obviously, over the this long time period, you doing business generally, I saw how a lot of the people in the business bubble just generally just moved out and in and out and in and switched things. For you, I saw you were very consistent with like first dating and then business coaching. I obviously understand that this is a higher leverage activity. Like teaching dating is lower leverage than teaching business. Did you notice that right away? Like when you switched, it just was so much easier to do the same numbers or more with
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I literally specifically remember us saying when we transitioned from dating to business, most of my team was still there. And I'm like, holy shit, guys, we have been selling on hard mode. Like we've been playing this game on hard mode the last years, and now it's easy because just pricing alone, it was like, it's going to sound like an excuse. I don't want people to think this is an excuse. It's like harder to justify $2,000, $3,000 for a dating offer than it is for a coaching offer for a build your business, because
you can say you're going to make it back.
Like exactly. You're going to make it back. You just need 2 clients and we can help you with that. So back then, that's what happened because our sales team was not A players. So it felt easier for them. Now I know that a good closer wouldn't even notice a difference, whether they're selling dating or freaking meditation or how to build your chicken coop or business. If it's the same price, it will be the same kind of difficulty.
Yeah. I would say right now, for me personally, Hermosi is one of the biggest guys which I look up to in the whole niche. Is there anybody specific which you generally look up to currently and where you're actively learning from?
I actively learn from many, many people. One person that I look up to is our CMO, Robin. in terms of more like how crazy committed can one be to their craft, to their path of mastery. It's very inspiring because I used to have this for very, very many years. And I feel like in the last 2 years, it kind of dipped a little bit. And now spending more and more time with our CMO, Robin, I'm like, this is it. Let's go fucking crush. And it really inspired me over the last couple of months. Plus, I have many mentors. I work with a guy named Gabe Saga for YouTube stuff. He's a complete genius. It's total joy to work with him. And it's really cool to see such high level guys that really have been behind great, amazing brands. I also work with a guy named Jeremy Moser. He's helping us with Instagram. Complete freaking genius in his field. So one thing that I used to have back then is like have one big mentor and I want to be like them. And I transitioned into more like have multiple different mentors that are an absolute tip of the spear top in their respective fields and learn from them. Right. So when I work with Gabe, it's all YouTube. When I work with Jeremy, it's all Instagram. Because I want to learn for the best, right? So if you want to learn MMA, you might want to learn from the best MMA fighter out there. I forgot who's the best one. Khabib? No, his cousin. Who's his cousin? Islam Makhachev. Yeah. So it's like you want to learn from the best if you can afford them. So that's the whole idea, is like make more money so you can afford the best guys. If all you have is peanuts, if all you pay with is peanuts, all you'll get is monkeys.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting what you said with the very first person, like which came to mind was the guy which you're working with. I assume it's like a younger guy who probably makes a little bit less money than you, or is like more on the come up. And I saw the same exact thing for me, where like my little brother and like one specific guy from the team, which are way younger than me, they still have that like super strong drive on like, I have to make it, which motivates me so much more.
Yeah.
And I feel so much more chill since everything started to be very consistent. Most of the things were outsourced. The only thing I'm doing is just like YouTube videos and like a couple of calls, like maybe 6 hours a week or something. And that's it. And I started feeling way more lazy. And then that was such a big jump for me again, where I had other people which were like, wait, it's 3 p.m. Why the fuck are you not working right now? Like, so I can relate to that as well.
Robin is about my age, and I think over the last 2 years he made more money than I did, because he's not only our CMO, but he also runs different campaigns. I think he generated 50 million over the last 2 years or so for his clients. I don't know how much of it he got, but he's absolutely crushing it. And regarding what you said, is like, you have someone younger who brings the energy. It's really cool because a lot of people might be listening to this and they're like, well, okay, you said like get the best mentors if you can afford them. What do I do if I can't? And I posted on Twitter the other day about this. I'm going to paraphrase my own quote here, but it was something like, if you have nothing to offer in the beginning, the one thing you can always offer is to genuinely be the most hyped person to be here. And I've actually learned this from snowboarding, as weird as it sounds. So here in Austria in the Alps that we're in right now, there's a lot of really good snowboarders out there. And a lot of these folks are younger than me. So when you ride with these people, they're very fast. They're just so much better than you. And for the longest time, I always felt inferior to them because I'm like, I can't do the tricks as nicely as them. I can't do the crazy tricks. I don't get as much air. I felt very inferior to them. I felt like I couldn't bring much skill to the table. But then it clicked and I'm like, you don't need to bring the skill to the table. You just got to be freaking hyped about the fact that you're all snowboarding here. Like, they might not respect you as much because of your skills, but they respect your attitude. And they will like being around you, these freaking pros, because you're just a fun guy. And even though you might not do a double backflip, but just a single backflip, they'll like you because you just bring good vibes. And that's what your cousin does. He might not have the experience yet. He might not have the know-how, but he's there and he has good fucking vibes and he's inspiring you. So that's the only thing he just
tries harder than me. That's the
exactly
thing. He tries harder, and then I feel like a bitch if I don't as well, right? So
if you can't bring anything to the table, bring your vibes, bring your enthusiasm to the table.
For sure. I remember a couple of months ago, a really interesting thing happened where I basically watched like a Hermosi video, and he was talking about how you can call your leads when they didn't sign up. So for example, they signed up for tomorrow, 3 p.m. through Calendly.
Yeah.
And he was like, just call them right away. They signed up right now. They're on their laptop. Call them within 5 minutes. And it blew my mind. It was like, damn, this is insane. That's such a good idea. Do you remember the last time where you had a belief where it was just completely broken and it actually made a big impact for you?
Yeah, that specific example, outbound calling, that's why we have 5 closers. We do it exactly the same. It's like people opt in before they watch TVSL, before they book a call. So even if they don't end up booking a call, we got their phone number, we call them. And that is how we make a vast majority of our money. And the cool thing about that, just to dwell on that for a second, is it's very hard to copy. I mean, how many people do you know that have maybe even copied your funnel? Like some idiot is like, well, this guy's crushing it. I'm just going to copy the landing page, copy the VSL, copy the ads, copy the booking, copy everything. Well, good luck copying this. Drop your phone number here. And now what? Well, my guy's going to call you and they're going to be really, really freaking good. And they're going to give you shit and they're going to motivate you. And then they're going to listen to you. So it's really hard to copy. Plus, speed to lead is much faster because you don't have to wait for them to freaking book a call. Plus, you get much more efficient with your numbers because while only a vast minority will end up booking a call, you have their phone number. And if you just have enough manpower, you just freaking call them. So you will squeeze out much more of your ad spend and your cost per lead and cost per acquisition goes down massively too. What was one of the things that I absolutely got my mind blown with is like, weirdly enough, I went strongly back to the basics when I started posting content again, because I haven't done it in so long, at least not as serious. And when I started working with people like Gabe or Jeremy, I'm like, damn, you guys are really freaking good. And I like that. Like, if you don't get your mind completely blown at least once a week, you're hanging out with the wrong people. Like, you want to be questioning some of the beliefs that you've had so far. You should welcome that. It's going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to feel like an idiot because, like you said yourself, you're making money and you're like, I always thought this is the normal way. Oh shit, damn, how stupid am I? You should feel stupid a lot of times. Like at least once a week. That's how you progress.
Yeah. Is it like, I think it's really important to have some sort of barrier to entry where you cannot be copied. What you just said is a really good example for that, where my sales guy is just better than yours. So just try, and it's not going to work. I think for us, it's just content on YouTube where I see so many people trying to copy the exact same videos I have. But the difference is I back it up with like 3 case studies a week. Every single week, we just crush with case studies. And then on top of that, the videos themselves are just like, it's something which is really difficult to replicate, right? Like a copied YouTube video is something which you can just smell and it just doesn't fit into the personal brand of the other person, etc. So I'm also really curious on just making good content overall, because what I can tell from you is you're really good at storytelling overall from all the years of doing it. Would you say the only way to get there is just doing it for like a shit ton of time, or are there some things which you just can give like as little tricks which to optimize that?
Yeah, I love what you said there with in regards to like everybody's trying to copy it and you can smell it. I think you even say like you can literally smell it. I once heard a quote on Twitter which I really liked. It's the internet enables 8 billion monopolies. And what I basically did is I took that quote and I expanded on it. And I'm saying, to answer your question, the internet enables 8 billion monopolies if only people had the balls to be themselves instead of just copying what they think will get them followers. And that's kind of like the whole idea. Like, people are too insecure or too perfectionistic. And they're like, oh, instead of figuring out my own voice, I'm just going to copy Michael or whoever and then just suck at it, instead of just doubling down on their own quirks, on their own character, on their own backstory, and just saying, this is going to be my monopoly. Because look, if you are just focusing on being authentic, you become your own niche. And in the moment where you're your own niche, nobody can mess with you, because people cannot copy being you and be better at you. You know what I mean? Like the thing I said earlier with the Lego, right? Like, you can't copy that. Some guy's like, oh yeah, the Lego, I'm going to mention in my next video, I like playing Lego. It's not going to work, right? Because it doesn't fit to your personality. So you got to be yourself, and that's a very great thing, because number one, it will make content creation a lot easier, because this whole authenticity is really helping you with perfectionism of like, oh, is what I'm about to write or post or make a video about good enough? We don't need to be good enough. It just needs to be you. So stop trying to make things that stop trying to create content that works. Start trying to create content that you want to talk about. I think that's really the biggest key that people need to understand. And then you become more consistent, because you don't have no more barrier. You're just like, I today want to talk about how playing Lego helps me with my focus. Fuck it. I want to talk about this. I don't care if it works or not. So now you post more. When you post more, you gather more experience in posting. When you gather more experience in posting, you get more feedback from it. When you get more feedback from it, you get better. And the only way to get better is by doing a lot of it. And the only way to do a lot of it is by doing it in a way so you can do it consistently. We've talked about fitness before. What's the best diet in the world? Well, the one that you can stick to for a long time.
Yeah. Looking bigger picture on business generally, obviously there's tons of metrics which have to be tracked, and I feel like for me, and I'm personally curious what your take on that is, because I am lacking extremely in tracking all of the things. I basically know we're spending anywhere between 15 and 22K on ads overall, and that's basically YouTube discovery and some retargeting. We collect 400 to 500. That's it. I have no clue where, like, which ad was responsible for what. It just comes in, and I don't complain about it. But I also feel like it's hindering me of scaling, because I don't know what to scale and how, like, which ad is the best. I have no fucking clue, right?
Yeah.
So, what would you say, like, are the main metrics you are tracking, or do you have the same approach as me?
So is that the question? How many of those I am personally tracking, or we as a company? That's the big important thing, because ultimately, okay. If you don't track it as a CEO, that's not a problem in and of itself, as long as you have someone who tracks it and that person actually knows what they're doing, and they have power enough in the company to take action about it. So when I'm saying you got to have someone in the company that tracks it, it's not enough to have some VA from a third world country. Well, he's looking at the numbers. No, because that person needs to have the power as well and the authority in your company to take action against it. So for us, the ads tracking is being taken over by our numbers guy. We have one numbers guy, Victor. He's kind of like the link between marketing and sales, because he's the head of setting. He manages the calendar. He's the guy who sifts out people from the calendar, who switches one lead over to another setter, and so on and so forth. And he also tracks the numbers of sales and of marketing. And Robin, our CMO, he also tracks the numbers of marketing, but more on the ad side, in terms of like, this is the ad that performs best. That's the ad that has the best CTR, and so on and so forth. So it's like, hey, we should record more ads that go into this direction. So he does that. Victor does that as well together with him. Plus, on top of that, we track everything about every single rep. We track how many outbound calls every setter does, how many inbound calls, how much show up rate, how much qualification or disqualification rate every setter has. We track the amount of sets they get per week, the amount of closed sets they get per week. From the closer, we track the amount of inbound calls, the show up rate, the show up rate of the people that they schedule themselves. The show up rate that the setter scheduled for him is, of course, tracked by the setter of this in regards to the setter. Let me put it that way. Plus the closing rate, refund rate. On the coaching side of things, they are also KPI'd on ascension stages. So basically, our program on the inside is divided into multiple ascension stages. Ascension stage 1 is client gets onboarded. Ascension stage 2 is client defines their niche and their audience. Ascension stage 3 is they define their USP. Ascension stage 5 is they create a profile, and so on and so forth. Like all the way up to the last ascension stage, was they make 10K a month. That's just for the base program. For the advanced program, we have other ascension stages. So now our coaches, because everything we do is one-on-one, our coaches, like every coach is responsible for a certain amount of clients that they're responsible for one-on-one. That's the first KPI that they're being tracked on, but also is like, how many ascension stages do you get your clients through on a weekly basis? It's got to be at least 10, meaning each and every coach needs to get every single client, needs to get their pool of responsible clients at least 10 stages further. So that's what they're being KPI'd on, all the way down to the DM setters. They need to do 200 outreaches per day. They need to book so and so many calls. They need to suggest so and so many calls. They need to have so and so many replies. They need to have so and so many follow-ups, all the way to the guy who edits my videos. This guy needs to create so and so many reels. This guy needs to create 10 reels or whatever, so and so many reels from each podcast episode that I'm doing. It's every single person has quantitative and qualitative measures. Because again, if you don't do that, you might scale to 400K, 500K, 600K a month, but then you're going to hit a ceiling because it's just your company's too jumbled and it will take you freaking months. It's almost like, the cables behind your computer, like they're all jumbled up and you have you got to unplug your monitor and you're like, I don't know which cable it is. So it's going to take you months to jumble that, to unjumble that. And that's why if you know your numbers right away from the get-go, you scale in a very clean and healthy way, and you'll never you never miss the overview.
How many clients can one coach of yours onboard? You said you assign X amount of clients per coach. What would you say roughly?
It depends. For the beginner program, it's probably a couple dozen. For the one-on-one, like the higher level stuff, it's probably more like 10 or 20 that you can like for the people that are scaling to 100K. Because they're each and every one-on-one coach that does it next to me, they need to really have the tracking numbers of our clients in place, like their ad spend, their return of investment. Like for a beginner client, they don't have ad spend, they don't have employees to track. It's just like, are they doing 20 DMs a day? And are they getting on 2 sales calls, 3 sales calls per week, something like that. But like the more advanced it becomes, the less clients a one-on-one coach can take on.
I see. Did you see a difference in between having multiple coaches for one client versus just having this one coach for X amount of clients and that's it?
We have kind of like a hybrid system. So we have 2 kinds of coaches in our company. We have specific expert coaches, and then we have customer success managers, CSMs, also known as coaches, but they're different kind. So the CSMs, they're there to make sure that the clients that they're one-on-one responsible for reach higher ascension stages, go through the program properly. They're basically like they're instructors that tell them like, hey, this is what you need to work on. Go check out this. Go on this call. Go fill out this exercise, and I'll give you feedback. And then the expert coaches, they're basically just coaches that have a weekly call. So, for example, we have Zach Michaels. He's our mindset coach. He has the Tuesday mindset call. So he just shows in, he does a super epic group call with everybody. He's crushing it. He picks up people one-on-one, helps them out like this. We have Robin, our CMO. He's one of our advanced ads coaches who helps our clients with ads. He doesn't work one-on-one with all of them. With some of them, with the higher guys, work one-on-one. But with the group coaching clients that are not there yet, for whom it's enough to just be in a group call once a month, we have the group calls every week, but they just come in once a month. They ask Robin about their ads. He looks at their numbers, and then they go out and try it again for the next 2-3 weeks. They can come every week if they want to. So in an ideal world, to answer your question, you have both. You have expert coaches that are kind of like, here's my stuff. Here's a big group. Let's go crush. And then you have singular coaches that are responsible one-on-one to make sure that their clients talk to the experts here, check out these resources, have a look at that, and so on and so forth.
I see. I see a really big difference on YouTube, especially with people who try to go viral versus people who try to convert. Obviously, 2 very, very different things.
Yeah.
What would you say makes a video go viral versus convert?
What makes a video go viral is usually watch time. So especially for short form videos, what we always aim at is like above 100% watch time, which means that people don't just watch the whole short form video, not the YouTube short or the reel, but they watch it at least twice or 1.5 times. So if you have 120% watch rate on a short form video, it's most likely going to go viral. That's more like on a numbers thing. With YouTube videos, it's a little bit different. Nobody's going to have 110% watch rate on YouTube. It's more about the retention rate and the average minute consumed per viewer. So also there, you basically want people to not only click. I'm still talking about virality. You don't only want people to click on the thumbnail and the title that tell a story together, but you also want them to be, number one, you want them to get what the thumbnail and the title suggests. Because if the thumbnail and title is really sexy, really interesting, but then the video doesn't deliver on that, you're just going to get a drop-off rate within the first 30 seconds, and it's going to look really, really bad. So you don't only want people to get what they thought they would get from the thumbnail and the title, but you also want them to watch the entire video and not just, buffet style, watch a couple clips from it. And that's kind of like the key. We personally work with that in terms of like hook, loop, open loop, rehook, and so on and so forth. So basically, you can imagine it's like a metaphor, like when you're going from you like Tarzan, you're swinging from one branch to the other. It's like first you hook them, then you have an open loop to make it interesting, so they now want to watch the next 30 seconds, and then you rehook them, and there's another open loop. So that's kind of like how we're aiming at virality with videos. Now, when you want to convert, you don't want to go too much on mass and attention. It's almost, I'm saying, careful with the word choice here. It's almost it's almost a converse effect where you almost want to sift out people instead of attract as many people as possible, because you don't want to convert to the wrong crowd. So you have to be much more picky, much more specific. So it's absolutely fine to be, for example, a little bit more boring in a video that you're aiming to convert at, simply because you don't want anybody that is just like quick fix dopamine as a client. You want to have people of affluence. You want to have people that whose goals align with the thing that you can deliver. Now, which one is better then? So Max, you say I should do only the convert content? No, not at all. What we usually say is like about half of your content should be focused more on broad people to reel them in. That's where you have the sexy videos. I mean, not actually sexy. Don't freaking miss it. Like, oh, I should take my shirt off. No. What I'm saying is like the attractive topic, something that is, that reels new people in that don't know you yet. And that's how you reel people in, because you're making them curious, because you say something provocative, and maybe at first they think you're an asshole. And then you hit them with really good freaking content that is aimed to warm them up and convert them over time. And if you're able to hit that perfect balance of like sexy, interesting topics that reel new people in, and then you warm them up, that's where you win. And that's something I've always done, both with my older businesses as well as with the current one.
Yeah. So especially with short form content, the craziest thing ever is just controversy, where you basically get people to start commenting and looking at the comments, because guess what? The video keeps playing. It doesn't matter if you're typing the comment or just like looking at other comments. You have to understand that the video just keeps playing over and over, and it's looping and looping. And that's by far the easiest way on how to go viral. And specifically in my like dropshipping program, where we teach people how to go viral organically for their dropshipping products, like obviously with that, it's a whole different game, and you don't really have like a face to lose. So you can do a bunch of bullshit like to go viral.
Actually, yeah.
And like in the beginning, I saw like so many people just doing like weird, like for half a second they show like a Pornhub logo in the background, and everybody's like, oh, did you see that or whatever? Or you do like mistakes, or you put in mistakes, and everybody's commenting like, bro, it's not, no, it's this, and this, and like that's the easiest way to go viral. But obviously, that's not going to convert, right? These things are not the thing which makes people actually want to buy. And also, most of them also are not going to follow you or like you in some sort of way where they're actually going to be open to consume more content. If they just think you're a complete degenerate, fuck you. So I think that's a really big misconception. And I've also seen a lot of people just like losing their face over going viral. And it's a huge mistake. It's a huge mistake. So I think it's something which transfers into faceless brands, which like I know many, but you just have one face. And yeah, I think the conversions in reality, what sales should be ideally is just showing results, right? Like what I saw on YouTube. I can talk whatever you want if I just show. I have like a case study with a client, and he shares a screen, I did this. There's nothing more powerful than that. I cannot say anything which is going to convince you to buy my stuff better than that. And it's crazy to me that obviously in the German bubble, it's a very common thing to have these like long form interviews with your clients and just interview them like you do also on your channel. But I see in the like international space, basically nobody does it. There's very rarely there's like really big coaches who have like a coaching, like a YouTube channel with over like 50K subs or something, who actually consistently on a weekly basis post one or two long form interviews. Do you think They just don't get it, or do you like? Why do you think that is? Because it's so obvious in the German bubble. But
yeah, I think because 90% of the people international that quote unquote make money, they actually don't deliver results. It's that freaking easy. They barely have people to do freaking interviews with. That's why they're not doing it. And that's reason number one. Reason number two, I would argue they don't want to take the time to talk to a freaking client that got results because they're so focused on just, drinking their own Kool-Aid and like, I'm so cool, I need to do the freaking lifestyle instead. That is one. There's a lot of things where the international market is way further ahead than the German market, but there's a couple of small things where the German market is doing cool things that the international market is completely missing out on. So I agree with you. Like if I were a B2C or B2B, any sort of make money online kind of person, I would make sure I have as many actual interviews with real people as possible. Also, one thing that I barely ever see anywhere is like show real first name and last name. If of course your client agrees, show their Instagram handle. We do this all the time. Again, if our client agrees and we have an interview with them, we're like, here's first name, last name. Here's his Instagram. Here's what they're selling. Here's what we help them with. Go ahead and freaking DM them and ask them if they're paid actors. So I don't see that kind of transparency a lot because again, like most of the people can't deliver results. They're too focused on making too much money. The funny thing is though, you actually make more money when you focus on delivering value. 100%. I always say the first rule of money is money follows value. If you focus on making money, maybe you'll make some money. But if you're focusing on delivering value, you'll make money forever. It's actually a great Twitter thing. I should quote myself as that. If you focus on making money, you'll make some money. If you focus on delivering value, you'll make a lot of money for a very long time.
Yeah. I think case studies are the highest ROI thing I generally do overall. Because like I do the case study, it gets posted, we get a shit ton of clients through that. And also, I already am talking to the guy one-on-one who started to make money. I upsell them. Right, I upsell them in a big program. It's a two thing, and especially hitting them while they're super high in the case study, they just reflect how crazy things went, and it's the easiest thing in the world to basically do two things at the same time, where you do both.
Hold on,
just so I understand.
Make sure the light turns back on. I think it's just this switch here that you have to tap. Oh, it's this light. Yeah, we're just messing around with the light. It should be good. Maybe in the meanwhile, just turn that on, just so I'm not completely in dark.
Yeah, we can cut it.
No worries, mate. I mean, we can still keep going. I'm sure the video quality isn't completely bad.
Yeah, sure. I mean, from the timeline here, would you say except for hires, what were the biggest jumps which actually made your business way more money?
Hires, no. There's a bunch of things. Hires, cold traffic, organic. So it's like we had to go from organic. We had to go from relying on organic to rebuilding cold traffic. Now we had to go from relying on cold traffic to also go down organic. So these are all huge needle movers. Like in an ideal world, you're able to spend horrendous amounts of ad spend each and every month. Hell, even each and every day. There's people who spend $20K a day. Like in an ideal world, you do that and it makes you money. And in a completely amazing paradise ideal world, you do that and you have a huge following. And in a crazy parallel universe ideal world, you spend a lot of money on ads that make you a lot of money, you have huge organic following, and you have a freaking A-player team that converts and delivers. So it's really these three things, I would almost argue.
Do you have a specific bottleneck which you currently have?
Not enough people to cover all our leads. Literally every day, because I see the numbers posted in our group every day, we're like, guys, we have another 800 people that we couldn't call yet since yesterday. Let's call as many as we can. And then we catch up, and it's like next day is like, all right, another 800 people. It's always like between 600 and 800 more people that we can't call. So we're frantically, we're always hiring. ABH always be hiring, but because we only hire like 0.5 to 1% of people that we speak to. Of course, like we're gonna run sooner or later into issues because we just can't hire people fast enough to get all to cover all the leads. I would say that's our biggest bottleneck right now. So if someone listens to this and wants to work in a kick-ass sales team, message me on Facebook.
How much do you spend per lead?
I don't know the exact numbers right now. Don't know.
Like on the VSL. Okay, we don't know.
Don't know. I don't want to lie, so I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers. I know it's been a long week.
I see. Yeah, I think we can wrap it up here. If you don't have any further questions or anything.
I just want to apologize for all the rambling.
No, all good. That's why we're doing it. This podcast, the format of the podcast is me asking questions.
And they've been really good.
Yes.
They've been fantastic freaking questions. Thank you really very much for that.